Welcome to the Elliott Confidential Podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott, here with Aren and Iden Elliott. Hey boys, how are ya?
Doing good.
I'm doing fine.
And we just made it to Chiang Mai, Thailand in the northern part of the country.
It's crazy.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome, yeah, I know. But the real story this week is Vietnam, because we all went to Vietnam. And getting there was half the adventure. And here to tell us more about that is Iden Elliott.
You gotta say it like this, and getting there was just half the adventure.
Okay. So Iden, we had an interesting time trying to get into Vietnam. We were in Cambodia, and we realized a day before that you had filled out the wrong entry port on your visa. Unbeknownst to us, Vietnamese are very strict about their visas. You have to have the right port of entry on your visa. You had the wrong one. Yours said Ho Chi Minh City because that's where you have a friend. And we were going into Da Nang, which is in the central part of the country. So we arrive at the airport in Siem Reap, and what happens next?
They let us through. Well, you already know that because you're listening to us right now.
Right.
But we went up to the desk and they looked at our visas.
And they said, no way.
Very attentively,
Yeah.
and they're like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Let us contact the customs in Siem Reap. Just give us a moment. And
you mean in Da Nang?
Da Nang. So after they said no, there was about 15 minutes of very tense silenceness between us, and I think I ordered like a smoothie.
So you're sitting there having a smoothie, and the rest of us are freaking out, and the airline is calling Da Nang, where the customs officials are, and asking them if they can be let in. And so what happens then?
Well, and I'll say one thing is, like, I was also a little bit concerned. I just didn't look it, but I was just sipping my smoothie.
Yeah, this is a teachable moment really for you, because now you know you always look at the paperwork twice before you send it in.
And something that our entire people learned was don't mess with the Vietnamese.
And definitely don't mess with
Yeah,
Vietnamese.
especially when it comes to visas. But I'm just sitting there sipping my smoothie, and then you two are just looking at each other.
We're not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not happy at
Doing
all.
a staring contest.
Yes, spitting nails on each other. And I remember we were approached by these other two people who I would say were in probably like 7 times worse of a situation.
Oh yeah,
than
the
us.
Australians. Yeah,
They
they
were-
didn't even apply for a visa.
No, they didn't. They applied for a visa there.
At the airport, which
At the airport.
you can do in some cases. Some nationalities are allowed.
But not Australian, not us. And they said, we just didn't know in it. And and they said, well, we found out there was a possibility of us getting a real quick visa by just paying $300. And Aaron's first thing he told us this immediately after we went over to get the smoothie was, that's a scam.
It ended up not being a scam.
It ended up not being a scam.
I talked to them and they were fine. So anyway, long story short, customs guy comes over and says,
you can go through.
you can go through. So we flew all day long. We flew to Vietnam.
But
we
that's not
got
where it
off the
ends.
plane.
That's not where it ends.
And we thought,
They're for sure going to
what if they
reject
don't let us in?
What if they don't let us in at
What
the
if
border?
they didn't get the memo?
Luckily, once we got to border security,
Oh, yeah.
they
just waved us through.
Yeah, it was. I think specifically they got like a slacker on our little entry booth, because when I was there last time, the guy really looked. He got like a magnifying glass. I was like, you sure you're not a terrorist?
This brings us to this week's question, which is, have you ever not been allowed into a country because of a paperwork problem? I would love to hear your stories of not being let into a particular country, being turned away. Have you ever been turned away? We've actually dealt with people on my advocacy website who were turned away or held in a cell, which is a very, very bad thing. If you're trying to have a vacation, you do not want to be in a cell. Anyway, so question is, have you ever had paperwork problems getting into a country? Would love to hear your horror stories or funny stories too. I don't know, possibly this is could be a funny thing, I don't know. Vietnam, Aren, please tell us about Da Nang. We went to a place called Hoi An, the Anantara Hoi An, which is, as I said before, in the central part of the country, and it's in a nice little town along the river. And what did you think of Hoi An?
Hoi An is one of those really special places. I don't know what about it, but I think that it's along with Perth, where it's just a very windy, nice weather destination, and really, walk around, and people, they talk a lot of crap about communism, but I'd say communism done that place nice because it's so different.
It's a different
from
soft communism.
Very soft communism.
It's so different from Thailand, where everything is sort of squished in together. And, I'd say maybe they need a little bit of communism here. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'll get put in a
We
jail
have a
for
very
saying
American
that.
audience. I don't think
And
they would
as
like to hear
someone
that.
who grew up during the Cold War, when I see a hammer and sickle, I go grrr. But they had lots of banners with hammers and sickles, and so okay, enough about the politics though.
But I think that you could say about Hoi An is it's a beautiful place.
Oh,
They've got
yes.
great weather. It's really hot there, but blue skies. It's rainy season right now. It's technically not rainy season there because they have it in like fall. And it's like monsoon season in Arizona, basically.
Let me set the scene, because I think when people think of Vietnam, they think of the jungle, maybe something they've seen in a Rambo movie. So Vietnam, in Hoi An, where we were, it was absolutely beautiful. You had the mountains behind you in the background. You had this river, and you had fishermen on the river with their nets and those hats that they wear.
Yeah, it's those Vietnamese hats.
Those cultural appropriation
we
hats.
saw those also when we were in Bali, but
Yeah.
they're different here. They're different there in
They
Vietnam.
look slightly different, yes.
They look slightly different, but everyone wears them. It's like
That's right.
It was a little bit of an exaggeration when you watch Apocalypse Now, and everyone is wearing them. Like kids, freaking everyone's wearing those rice hats.
I don't know.
But the thing is, it's kind of accurate. Is a lot of people are wearing them.
Yes, still wear it to this day.
So you have those mountains, which are incredibly beautiful, but you also have lots and lots of Chinese temples, which, some of them, they cost money to get into, but a lot of them are free. They're beautiful, and they do like tea rituals inside. It's interesting.
The town of Hoi An itself is very touristy, but there's also a fair amount of commerce going on there. There's a marketplace. You can walk through the market, and there's people buying dinner. So it is a functioning market. It's not just for the tourists. Hoi An is also, there's a beach close by, and it is one of the most beautiful looking beaches that I've ever seen. I have to go back. I mean, we were not there for long, but I have to go back and go hiking, and I have to go to the beach. And I want to go into Hoi An and check it out. It looks like a real kind of happening town. Not at all. When you think of Vietnam, you think of Americans will think of the war and think of the images from the war and all the movies, but it is a very, very different place now. Not at all like you see in the movies. And we enjoyed it a lot. What did you think, Aiden?
Me? I didn't really get to see much of it. I was doing school.
You were doing school. Okay, never mind.
Oh well.
Brief note before we sign off here that we are now in Chiang Mai, which is in the northern part of the country. And I know that we have some listeners who are also in Chiang Mai. We just got here, so we haven't had time to reach out to you, but we're going to. There are things here that we're looking forward to doing. Chiang Mai has a lot of temples too. It is a very walkable city, and it is famous for its American expatriates. There are a lot of Americans here. Oh my goodness.
Yes, sirree.
And a lot of hostels too.
And there are also lots of dispensary hostels where you get high and then you sleep with like a bunch of other people. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? We are actually, it's interesting that I should mention hostels, because we are in an Airbnb right now. I can say that. And they rented it to us, and it looked like it was going to be a complete house.
We're renting at a hostel.
It ended up being a hostel. We're living inside a hostel. We've rented the entire hostel. It's 3 bedrooms. And it's definitely a hostel. It just doesn't have a foosball table, but apart from that, it is a total hostel.
Does it need a foosball table?
We are now we're sitting in the living room, and it's not a living room. It is a storefront.
It's like a reception area. Yes.
It is a storefront. The doors look like storefronts to like a spa. Like if you've ever been,
you've got all the cards there, and then you have the slippers, the area for slippers. It's not. This is not meant to be lived in by for a longer period of time.
No.
But we're going to be here for a little while. And what are you most looking forward to in Chiang Mai, Aiden?
Most looking forward to in Chiang Mai. Well, I don't know.
You have no idea, right?
I mean, we've been walking around. It looks like a very rural city.
Yeah, it's not quite as buzzy as
It's not as glitzy
Bangkok.
as Bangkok.
Yeah,
You'll walk
definitely.
around and it's actually quite dirty on some streets, but there are other areas that look really nice.
But I have to say, really safe though. We haven't ever felt threatened or anything.
No,
like
everyone's
that.
been very, very nice.
Yeah.
Actually, funny enough, in the middle of this podcast, I picked up a Grab order, which Grab is like Uber Eats for Vietnam and other East Asian countries. And I go outside and he said, "I love you too." And he was learning. He didn't know what that meant. He was learning English.
Yeah, I think they learn English,
But
which is great because I only know 2 words in Thai right now.
Yeah, Kub Kum Ka and Saring Ha or something
Yes,
like that.
hello and thank you.
Yeah,
That's,
regardless, I
I'm embarrassed.
felt loved when he said that.
Yeah, okay, well, good. A production note or two. Last week's podcast, in which we were... Where were we last week?
We were in Cambodia,
Okay.
weren't we?
Don't include that.
All right, let me do
That's
that again.
embarrassing.
Production week on last week's podcast, we were in Cambodia and we had a lot to say about Cambodia and Siem Reap, but I pushed the wrong button and didn't send that podcast out. It got posted on the web, but it didn't go out to the email newsletter. So I'm going to add a link to our podcast from last week. So consider it a doubleheader if you missed last week's podcast. But because almost no one saw the podcast online, we did not get any comments. Oh no, it's the first week we've never gotten comments. But we will read your comments in the next week's podcast. In the meantime, though, our question of the week is, have you ever had a paperwork problem that prevented you from getting into a country, or were you ever deported? I would love to hear your stories. We'll read them if you dare share your name on... You don't have to share your name, by the way. But we will read them on the next podcast, and we'll make fun of you. I'm kidding, we won't make fun of you. Or will we?
Maybe just a little bit.
Maybe just a little bit. Thank you for listening to the... Thank you for listening to the LA Confidential podcast. We've enjoyed our time with you as we do every week. We will see you next week, which will be coming to you from another part of Thailand.
See ya.
Bye.
Actually, it's going to be the same part of Thailand.
Bye-bye. Oh, yeah, we got 2 weeks here.
The same part of Thailand.
See you guys. Ciao.
Bye.